Let's see, the question is about Doctor Who spin-offs.
Yes, 57305 Northern Princess says, would love to see you talk about Doctor Who and spin-offs. So we've talked about Doctor Who, we need to talk about spin-offs, and you had opinions on Torchwood.
I don't like Torchwood, I really don't. But, I recognise some people seem to like it, but it felt... I don't know. I didn't get a good vibe off it, and I can't really put my finger on it.
It was excessive in its pandering to a teenage audience, I thought. My biggest issue was, I tried the first episode, and it was one of the worst things I'd ever seen, even by Russell Davies standards. His writing was appalling, his characterization was next to non-existent. He had a character find the location of a top-secret base by pretending that they'd ordered a pizza and then just walking up and knocking on the door.
I'm afraid, I think that sums up a lot of Russell Davies' writing, and I think it's what put me off New Who was the Christopher Eccleston period. The writing was lacking in a lot of places.
Eccleston, I thought, was a phenomenal Doctor. He was very, very good at making an intense, clearly damaged person, but the scripts were not there. Davies can do characters really well. He's great as a kind of soap opera actor. He gets emotion over very quickly. But he is appalling at science fiction, to the point where you have to team him up with someone who knows what they're doing in order to get a good script out of him. The whole thing is, how do I get to the next plot point? How do I get to this twist? How do I get to that? And nothing about anything in between that's worth watching.
Yeah. But, if we go further back in time, that wasn't the first Doctor Who spin-off.
No, it wasn't. Oh, and can I just say one more thing about Torchwood?
Go on.
Episode 2, A Monster That Feeds on Sex.
That's Russell Davies, isn't it? That's a bit of a Freudian thing.
It's one of the Outer Limits. Remember the remade, rejigged Outer Limits from the 90s?
No, I know.
One of the episodes in the Outer Limits is A Monster That Feeds on Sex. Basically, Torchwood is the Outer Limits with the same problems.
But I think it's something that Doctor Who spin-offs have had something of an issue all the way through the history of Doctor Who.
That none of them can manage to capture the essence of it.
For me, the very first Doctor Who spin-off, a long time before my time, but Mission to the Unknown, was written principally as a vehicle to try and gauge how the Daleks would cope with a standalone series. And they were really the first spin-off character. It's something that Terry Nation really had the Daleks as his meal ticket. And they were a great idea. But the idea originally was for a spin-off series. They made Mission to the Unknown. It's one of the Doctor Who missing episodes. It's classed as Doctor Who, even though the Doctor and his companions, I don't think, feature in it at all. Not even a brief bit here or there. But then we've also got K9 and Company, which the episode they made was Girl's Best Friend.
And it turned out that it wasn't very good, and it was shown once, I believe, as a Christmas or New Year special.
I don't know when it was shown. I know it came out as it was coupled with another episode. I can't remember which episode. When they were releasing the classic Doctor Who,
The Invisible Enemy or something like
that. I don't remember it from the time. It's probably a bit before my time because it'd be Tom Baker era. It came out as part of a box set with, you saying, The Invisible Enemy.
I think it was The Invisible Enemy.
And
isn't that the one where K9 first turns up?
I'm not sure. It's not the one. I don't think it's the one where... No, because K9 turns up with... No, I don't know.
I think it is.
It could be, actually. But K9 and Company is Sarah Jane after she's left Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, it's either it was coupled with the one where K9 first turns up, or the one where this is the last appearance of K9, or, no, because that was K9 left with Romana in East Base, or it was the one where Sarah Jane left, which is like the Hand of Fear or something like that. It was coupled with either K9 first turning up or Sarah Jane leaving.
Yeah, and it's... they've put it out, and in fact, actually, it's I suppose it stands out as being the only Doctor Who spin-off that's been released as part of the Doctor Who releases as opposed to in its own right. And it's...
Well, they would have released Mission to the Unknown, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I suppose if tomorrow somebody found a film can with Mission to the Unknown in...
BBC would be on that.
Oh, yeah.
Like a shot.
But... what else? There's been the Sarah Jane Adventures. That was a more recent thing.
Yeah, and then there was K9 as an Australian-made programme, as a kids' programme that was shown on BBC, but it was made in Australia, where K9 was redesigned, and instead of jumping on the floor, he could fly. And that got at least one series.
So was that a more recent thing? Or
around the same time as Sarah Jane Adventures started.
Right, because I thought K9 didn't... How did it... The Sarah Jane Adventures, she appeared in a New Who serial.
She appeared in School Reunion.
That was it, yes.
An episode of New Who, and that's when the Doctor gave her a rebuilt K9 because they killed K9 in that episode. Which is an oddity because K9 was with Sarah Jane and with Romana, and then got destroyed, and then got rebuilt.
But I thought
there's many different versions of them.
But I thought that there's a backstory with Romana in E-Space and then coming back from E-Space.
Which brings us into the novels.
Right. So
because Romana comes back from E-Space and becomes the president of Gallifrey in the books. It's one of the few times when the books are suggested to be part of continuity for Doctor Who.
So the Doctor Who, the Gallifrey Chronicles, doesn't feature the Doctor particularly?
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does?
This one is brilliant. It's technically the final 8th Doctor book in the continuity.
So this is Paul McGann?
Paul McGann Doctor.
Right.
And it's an oddity because it basically sets up the TV show, but the TV show has never made the books canon. It's an odd one because... In the 50th anniversary special episode with Paul McGann, where he regenerates as the War Doctor,
right?
It specifically references some of his companions, and none of them are the companions from the books.
Well, it's one of those things. I think that there is a market for Paul McGann to be brought back as Doctor Who and have a series, like a classic Doctor Who style series that's distinct and different from what they're making as New Who. And there's a gap in the timeline that's never been shown on screen. There's the Big Finish productions,
which are the ones where they've been essentially made suggested as made canon because the companions that the 8th Doctor says goodbye to when he's about to regenerate are the companions that he met during the Big Finish audiobooks.
Right. But, I think there'd be, you could have a series or two. And, I get the impression Paul McGann is quite happy to play Doctor Who again. And I think that would kind of redress the balance where Doctor Who was unceremoniously cancelled in 1989. And then that terrible Doctor Who the movie.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen the extras on the DVD?
What, is it just like the director apologising to the fans?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's brilliant. There are 2 interviews with the director. The first one was filmed at the time the TV movie was coming.
Oh, so he has to be.
And he's all like, oh, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. We've put a load of effort in. It looks brilliant. We've respected the continuity. It's going to be great. And then in the one that was recorded in 2000, it's just going, I am so sorry.
So basically the first one's like a terrorist video where he's having to read the corporate speech, and then the second one's after he's got back and it's like they made me say it, they made me say it.
He's just sat there basically going, I am so sorry.
Anyway, spin-offs, what else?
There's been Torchwood, of course, which was quite popular.
But we've talked about that.
And that's about it. Aside from the books...
Well, you were saying that the Doctor Who films, because they depart somewhat from canon. It's interesting, actually. They haven't dated well. Certainly the Dalek invasion of Earth.
It turns weird, doesn't it?
Does that come before or after the TV series?
After. The films are the Daleks and Dalek invasion of Earth. They're remade versions of the TV show.
And like Doctor Who and the Daleks, the one that's got Roy Castle as one of the companions, I always enjoyed that. I thought that was actually pretty well made.
Except for 2 problems.
Okay.
The character is not the Doctor. He is specifically a Doctor Who, with Who is his surname, who is an English professor who invents a time machine. And Susan is depicted as a very annoying, very young child.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot more, the actual original story, The Daleks, was a very good story, and in many ways that's
Except for 2 episodes in the middle where it's basically the characters
go
for a holiday.
Do let me finish, though. But essentially, it's a very good serial done on a very, very low budget. And the film is kind of saying, this is how we wanted to make it. This is big budget, let's do it properly. And even now, I enjoy watching that film. But the Dalek Invasion of Earth, the film, just felt like it had just been cranked out on the cheap. There was no thoughts about making it seem anything other than a student film. It really had this low-budget student film feel about it.
It was almost as if they knew, this Dalek mania won't last much longer. We've got to get another film out to cash in while we're ready.
But no, I seem to recall, it's so dated. They actually show a map which the M1 is visible on, and it shows it as ending at St Albans, and at the other end ending at Daventry. And it's like, but it dates it to a very specific year. It just felt wrong. It didn't feel like Doctor Who. And everything, the props looked cheap, the acting seemed phoned in.
The Daleks were quite nice and got reused in the show.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, like, if you've already got them, use them.
They built some Daleks for the films, and then because they had them, they reused them in the show.
Well, yeah, if you've got them, use them. But I don't know, the second Dalek film
it just didn't feel right.
No, as for anything else, I can't think of anything.
The comics series in Doctor Who Monthly.
Is that a spin-off, or is that...
It counts technically as part of the secondary continuity of the Who-niverse, the expanded universe.
Yeah, because this goes back to my definition of a spin-off. A spin-off, for me, is a Doctor Who serial or episode that doesn't feature the Doctor. It's about it being about an alternative direction. So Torchwood, you've got the Torchwood nonsense. K9 and Company, it's about Sarah Jane and K9.
So you wouldn't say this book here, the Star Wars: The Old Republic Revan, you wouldn't call that a spin-off from Star Wars?
I've never read it, but it's a bit like the Rogue Squadron ones. I see them as being spin-offs. They're not Star Wars; they're spin-offs. But then again, that would then beg the question: is Rogue One a spin-off or a Star Wars?
Well, it has to be a Star Wars thing because Darth Vader's in it.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, that's where it blurs the line. I don't know. I think comparing Doctor Who, where you've got this very clear central character, is different from, say, Star Wars, where you have a multitude of distinct characters.
I suppose so.
So I think it's different. But no, I think we've pretty much exhausted that. We've talked all about the
yeah, I think
spin-off.
To summarise, I like the books. I quite like the Big Finish stuff. Not so keen on the faction paradox mess that came up in the books and in the Big Finish, if I remember correctly, because that was just ridiculous and unnecessary. The Torchwood stuff I thought was juvenile, and that put me off being able to actually take it seriously and watch it. And I never got into the kids stuff like Sarah Jane Adventures.